Hello, fellow afflicted, and welcome to the first episode of To Be Continued. I'm your host, Grizz. It's a big week in gaming, so I'm going to jump right in and talk about the E3 Expo and what I did and did not like about the conference. As far as the press releases, there were 5 major ones. We'll start off with Microsoft. It was a pretty decent conference. Released Kinect, which is Project Natal as it's renamed. Showed off a couple games for it. Interesting motion capture stuff. We'll see how it works out. I'd like to see a lot more, though, before I'm really interested in buying one. I already own a Wii, so if I want motion control, I'll play Mario. Cliff Bleszinski was there with a real polished version of Gears 3. Game looked really nice. I'm assuming all they really have to do is play test this thing because it looked pretty much finished. Hideo Kojima was there with Metal Gear Solid, which was interesting. It's called Metal Gear Solid Rising. It's a hack and slash built in the Metal Gear Solid world. Play mechanics are interesting because you can pretty much cut anything from people to pillars to anything in the background. Of course, Halo Reach was there. They showed off the Firefight game mode, which most of you are familiar with if you played ODST. They've just updated it a bit and added matchmaking, so that ought to be pretty nice. They started out the conference actually showing Call of Duty Black Ops and talked a little bit about that, how Microsoft and Activision have signed an agreement to where they are the sole provider of downloadable content for Call of Duty, which ought to be interesting for people that play Call of Duty on the PS3. I wonder how that's going to work out, huh, Sony fanboys? Nintendo's press conference. I was most excited about this. They released 10 to 12 games that people really hadn't heard or seen much about, which was really kind of cool. Showed off the new Zelda, which is built exclusively for the Wii. If you were unfamiliar, the Twilight Princess, the last one, was actually built for the GameCube and then ported over to the Wii. So it's got much better motion control and really set up to run on the Wii. It looks absolutely wonderful. Really great game. A couple 2D side-scrollers. They had new Donkey Kong Country, which looks really cool. If you're a fan of the old one, you're going to love this one. Retro Studios has taken it. They're a really great company to make a really great game. And Kirby's New Yarn, which is really quite interesting. It's very similar to like a Paper Mario, but uses a cloth mechanic. Really cool. I'm definitely interested to pick that one up. Of course, there's a Mario Sports came out. It's 4 Mario Sports games. Really motion controller type games. Ought to be pretty cool. Also came out with Epic Mickey. It's a Disney game that's done by Warren Spector, so it's got a little bit of darkness to it, which ought to be quite interesting. Also kind of lapses the whole timeline of Mickey from Steamboat Willie all the way up to the present day, so that ought to be pretty cool. Actually excited about that. And of course the big news was they showed off the 3DS. 3D gaming without glasses. How does everybody like that? That ought to be pretty interesting. I'm interested to see what happens as far as TVs are concerned, seeing as how that 3D TVs are the big rage right now, but they all require glasses. So whatever technology Nintendo is using, I'm sure is going to flex into the market, into the bigger screens. And if you've just bought a 3D TV recently, it might be obsolete in the next year or two. Interesting to note that. We'll move to Sony. Sony I was not impressed with. They did not show off anything really new that we haven't seen already. They've already showed most of their trailers and didn't really hit us with something that they haven't showed. Of course they showed Move. Not really impressed with that. Motion controller is something that, like I said, I already own a Wii, so I'm not really excited about that. Some people might be trying to appeal to the hardcore gamers, and I don't really see that. You can play Killzone, you can play SOCOM, but is it going to be good or is it going to be better than a controller? I don't think so. As far as I was talking about, yeah, they showed SOCOM 4. Looks really nice. Classic SOCOM game, over-the-shoulder third-person shooter. Really great. And they showed Killzone 3, which of course looks really nice. Sony should thank their lucky stars that they have these 2 franchises to go up against the likes of Halo and Gears of War, because Microsoft really has the advantage when that's concerned. Of course, they showed off Gran Turismo 5. This game has everything. If you're into cars, you like Forza, this game will blow it away. It's got everything from Formula 1 to rally racing, so it's really cool. They also showed off Portal 2, which was really quite interesting, seeing as how Steam and Sony have really had a mixed idea of how gaming should go. But Steam is supposedly coming to the PlayStation Network, so it'll be instantaneous updates for any of the Steam games that they release now on Sony. Interesting to see that it's coming to the 360 and the PC also. Now PC already has Steam, but Xbox 360 is kind of left out in the cold as far as that's concerned. So we'll see how the updates work on that. Next I'll jump over to EA. EA had an excellent press conference, of course. They're going to really give Activision a run for their money with Call of Duty, seeing as how they're releasing 3 really good shooters this next year. They've got Crysis 2 coming out. It's an excellent looking game. It's running on consoles, which is frigging amazing. Really interesting play mechanics with the nano suit, being able to run active camo, super strength, super agility, things like that. They've got Bulletstorm, which is an epic collaboration, really over the top shooter with like kind of like a Duke Nukem type feel to it, to where it's almost like arcade funny. Crazy combo system, rack up points to upgrade guns and the character itself. Cool. Star Wars Old Republic, BioWare EA collab. EA is really working on these collaborations, and I think it's a great idea because then they get to get other companies to jump on board with their mass marketing push that they have. BioWare is doing a real cool thing with the MMO and making it full voice, which ought to be pretty interesting. I don't believe any MMO has had full voice yet, and of course BioWare is epic when it comes to storytelling, so we'll see how that works out. New Need for Speed, actually kind of going back to an old Need for Speed, seeing as how it's Most Wanted, which is more of the cops versus racers type thing, getting away from the urban environments and going to a more country, beach scene, stuff like that. Really nice backdrops for it. Of course, Sims 3 is coming to consoles. Ought to be pretty interesting. Not a real big Sims fan, but that's only because I haven't really played the game on PC. Interesting to see how it'll work on the consoles, especially with like multiplayer being involved. And of course, big news is Medal of Honor. I've seen the game running. I've seen it run a 24-player multiplayer without any lag. It looks absolutely fabulous. I really think it's going to be a better game than Call of Duty Black Ops, just saying it. Of course, I'm a big Battlefield fan, and I know that engine is really good. The only thing wrong with it is the fact that EA runs their own servers, so we'll see how the lag works out for it. Next up is Ubisoft. Released Assassin's Creed Brotherhood footage. Really cool. Love Assassin's Creed. Ought to be really cool to play a multiplayer and Secret Blade some of my friends. Ghost Recon, The Future Soldier. I was kind of worried about this game, about how futuristic it was going to be, but it looks like they've kind of toned it down as far as like the active camo and stuff like that. They had it up and running. Looked really pretty. Really interested to check this out. And they're bringing back the Driver franchise with Driver San Francisco. Kind of interesting play mechanics they've introduced there, and so where the main character is actually in a coma, so you can switch between cars on the fly, which is quite interesting. We'll see how that play mechanic works out. Other things that weren't really at the big press releases. Of course, we got Fable 3, Peter Molyneux's baby. That thing is awesome. It's going to be a lot better than 1 and 2 put together. They've really addressed the problems with 2, how the magic really wasn't that big a deal, and the skill progression really was kind of overlooked by a lot of people. A lot of people just kind of ran through that game, which they try. Hardcore gamers tend to do, but now they're kind of making it so that you can't really run through it. You've really got to do a lot of stuff. Fallout New Vegas, Bethesda, what else can I say? If you didn't put 100 hours on that game, then you didn't get anything out of it. Marvel vs. Capcom 3, really cool. It's running on the Super Street Fighter 4 engine. Just a little bit more of a cel-shaded look to it. They're looking to put 30 to 40 characters in it, so it's going to be really big. And of course, sleeper of the show was Rage, id Software's new first-person shooter. If you're unfamiliar with id, they're the guys that grandfathered first-person shooters. They did Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake, stuff like that. Their new game is amazing. It's all like hand-drawn, really interesting. Doesn't use pre-rendered textures for every map, so that's really going to be a big game. But that's got about a year at least before we see any of that. Well, thanks for checking out my E3 coverage. I've still got a little bit more to watch, and I'll catch up on anything that I missed. Thanks.